This is the Fifth Estate Winning Headlines, your media police post. In this segment, we summarize some of the headlines that you might have missed this morning. But we also take a look at the political pieces that we call cartoons in this country. Today is the 29th of April 2019, and I am Tujay.
I am Tuam.
And I am Miss K, your host. Again, in case you missed it, this is Winning Headlines. Let's take a look at today's headlines. Daily Nation, Ruto versus Moi, more than meets the eye. The Standard, Kenyans defend glory.
Yes.
And The Star, how dead lawyer shared out 68 million shillings in Kidero graft case. Let's start on a positive note. I'm proud of these negative headlines.
Agreed.
Kenyans defend glory.
Congratulations, our runners. Yeah.
I love it. Seeing a Kenyan man maraud the streets of Europe. And you know, I saw something on Twitter.
Okay.
A British man wrote, "It is so embarrassing watching 40,000 British people chasing after 10 Kenyans."
I do like that, and I like the imagery. Our 10 Kenyans are at the very front, elite runners, and then these guys just lagging behind.
Yeah.
And I commend the Standard for putting that as their headline and giving it a short and sweet title. Very good.
I do. I like the headline itself. I do like the imagery. I like that they're gender sensitive. And remember that Bridget Koske also was topping her line.
Yes.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It is so important sometimes to see the perspective of how outsiders look at us. Because we are generally very pessimistic people, Kenyans. We don't look at ourselves as anything.
Yeah, we forget that we're great.
Yeah.
We are.
So today on Twitter, I was watching comments and on the Telegraph, on mainstream British media, and I was saying how astonishing how these Kenyans can dominate marathon or long distance running for this amount of time. And I say, well, fantastic.
And so
Let's
maybe
keep
that
doing it.
begs the question, should we be celebrating our runners more? I know
Yes.
somebody was mentioning that Kipchoge still doesn't have a state commendation.
Yeah.
And
I
yet,
know. Githeri man has
Githeri
one
man
for
does.
standing in line and voting. Where is my commendation? I stood in line and voted
Yeah.
too, but I had cookies.
so maybe we need to reassess those priorities.
He was given state commendation for lining up and eating githeri.
Basically, yeah.
Yes.
We should be celebrating our heroes,
Well,
our
let's
national.
see. Is this headline our winning headline? And if it is, does it meet our criteria? We have a 3-part criteria that we use to break down the headlines for you. We ask ourselves 3 questions. Is this headline repetitive or is it groundbreaking? Definitely cannot be repetitive.
Yeah.
And if it is repetitive, I want to keep
No, it
breaking
is
and defending my
repetitive.
glory.
Me, I've never known anyone to win a marathon.
Yeah, we always
Me
win.
only see
Yeah.
Kenyans.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
Is it groundbreaking?
Yes.
No, it is no more.
But it's groundbreaking. Okay.
Okay, you can give me that.
Yeah, for the media, it is groundbreaking.
Is
that
it
they have put-
speculative?
No. It is a fact. We
Okay,
won.
fine then. Is it thoughtful? Or
Yes.
is it just plain lazy?
I love the use of the word defend. You know, it's a very powerful word, and giving it to people who we sometimes don't appreciate. It's very thoughtful. I
Then
like
I
that.
say, we'll put it on the parking bay first. Let's see the other headlines.
Yeah.
But I
Right.
think it's a strong contender for winning headlines today. How dead lawyer shared out 68 million. How'd that drop?
I mean, the Star needs to get it together. They're a whole mess. You can't have the Daily Nation and the Standard learning to use short and concise headlines to grab our attention. They've learned how to be effective with the real estate of their front page. Then the Star is giving us essays. I mean,
How dead lawyer shared out 68 million shillings in Kidero graft case. Well, they're trying to give you the whole story in one sentence.
But this story is from last year.
Also, I'd like to mention, and when I look at the story itself on page 4, that there's a picture of the death and funeral announcement of this lawyer. Regardless of what he did, and it's still an accusation, you cannot prove it, putting the picture of his funeral announcement just brings back the sorrow and
tasteless.
the grief that his family went through, and I think it's in poor taste.
Absolutely.
yeah, the Star is beginning to act like a tabloid newspaper. You know,
And maybe we're the ones who elevated them to a standard they could not themselves uphold.
That's very true.
Daily Nation, Ruto versus Moi, more than meets the eye.
This is a headline I would want to talk about.
All right.
I don't know whether you people watched the funeral of Jonathan Moi in Kabarak. This is Kabarak University. Gideon Moi behaved like the Duke of Baringoshire. He curated his own seat. In fact, if you watched if there was an outsider who did not know Kenyan politics, and watched the funeral, you'd have thought Gideon Moi was the president of this republic. His seat looked much better than the one of DP Ruto. Ruto just had a red seat. This guy, he even had, you know, the timepieces of what British aristocrats normally wear?
Yeah.
I think the one that has a rope and then you...
I mean, it's like hustlers and dynasties. What can we say?
He had curated it that people had come to pay homage to the Moi family. It did not look like a funeral.
Well, you have to give it to him.
Yeah.
As the owner of a certain news media station,
yes,
he would know what
yeah,
imagery does and how important it is and
yeah,
how good and how proper it is.
Yeah.
If you're angling for something to project an image,
yes,
and that image is powerful and unforgettable, and hence being discussed here by us mere mortals.
So he did not waste a disaster that was his brother's funeral.
Oh, not at all. No.
Never waste a disaster. Any good politician would tell you that.
It's his brother's funeral, for goodness sake.
And any good dynasty would know what that imagery means to the mere mortal, as you call us.
Yeah, just ask mere mortals
effective.
You see that, you see him, you think, you could be president, and especially if you juxtapose yourself against the king of the hustler nation.
You know,
and you give him a seat worthy of his stature.
He shook, he shook the deputy president of this republic's hand, well seated. He like this.
Okay, we're not going to discuss the Madarao or lack thereof, but I can say that in light of today's and yesterday's events, I'd take the Standard.
Yeah, and I think moreover with the nation, I think we discussed this earlier.
Yeah.
You look at the headline and it looks like it's going to give some great analysis. There's going to be some great analytical value inside.
That's true.
Yes. And then you read it and there's no information here.
That's true. That story sells the headline, and I think we have said it correctly, the headline is excellent. It sells you a very analytical piece. Yeah. But the story itself was extremely descriptive.
Maybe we should make this a morning show so we can tell Kenyans whether or not to waste their money on certain newspapers.
Food for thought. On to our next segment, the political pieces that we call cartoons in this country. And just like the headlines, we have a three-part criteria that we use to break down the cartoons for you. We ask ourselves two questions. Is the cartoon humorous or is it dry? Is the cartoon satirical or is it pessimistic? And is the cartoon effective or just plain lazy?
Yes.
I see you started with Gado.
Yeah. This one I don't like. Gado's cartoon.
Gado must have had a hard weekend if this is what he came out with.
Yes, but
this is lazy.
Let me just describe it. It's a caricature of Wanjiko, as Gado knows her. Yes, and yesterday, Wanjiko was being whispered to by two devils. Normally it's by an angel and by a devil. But now these are two devils. And the two devils, the first one is caricature of Uhuru Kenyatta. Second one is RAILA Odinga. Now, today, Wanjiko is being whispered to by two devils as well, but now they have changed. The one is Deputy President William Ruto in a Kalasinga hat, and the rest. And the other one is RAILA Odinga.
Again.
I don't know whether I like this cartoon.
I think it requires, there's nothing here to analyze. It's lazy. What's the criteria? I think he failed them all.
It's not humorous.
It's not humorous. It's not satirical.
I don't know if it's pessimistic because I don't even know. I don't know.
I don't know what he's trying to say with this.
I think most importantly, it's not effective.
Yeah.
Most importantly, it's not effective.
And I think that's a bare minimum.
Then you lose us at that point.
But
we have to mention that Wanjiko was originally a very derogatory term. And I don't know whether I want it to be my representation.
Yes. I think it is when I think Yashpal guy was in the team of people writing the Constitution, and Moi was like, this Constitution does not make sense to Wanjiko. And I think Wanjiko was depicted as this person who may not be able to comprehend the politics of the day or that kind of thing. And that is why you think it is derogatory.
Yes, because Wanjiko was originally depicted as a very ignorant person, very unaware of national issues, and most definitely not aware of any political issues.
Yes.
So when you see Wanjiko there, it still shows that.
It shouldn't be a narrative that carries on.
Though I do have to say that Gado himself has represented Wanjiko as a knowing person who stands against things that happen to her.
Yes. All right. Next one is The Nation. Iga. Initially, I did not like this cartoon. But
okay, first tell us what it is before you state your...
Let me say it.
Change of heart.
Let me say it. It's a group of Chinese, I don't know how they're Chinese, but I assume they are.
I think it's the haircut, the eyes.
Oh.
Sorry.
All right.
They seem to be going through a safari.
Or the big words written
yes,
China.
Yes, it's written China.
Who's driving the safari bus?
Oh, they have been labeled China. And now they are in a minibus, and the driver of the bus is Uhuru Kenyatta, and the co-driver or turnboy is Raila Odinga. But and next to them is a railway, which I assume is SGR.
Unfinished.
Unfinished.
I thought.
It is beginning from nowhere.
And what's the license plate?
It's Kenya shillings, 5.4 trillion shillings, which is a burden of external debt.
Yeah.
Now, and the Chinese guy says, oh, what a win should they default? And they're talking about assets. So yesterday I was reading an article by one of the writers, and they were saying that our assets, and it's a leaked document, it's a leaked contract between the Kenya government and the Chinese government. I don't know how true it is. But they were saying that the Chinese are open ground, the Kenyans are open ground for Chinese attachment. In case, if Kenya defaults on a loan, China can go for any of Kenya's assets.
Yeah.
All right? And I think the story and the context behind this is what has been going on throughout the weekend. That Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga are coming back from China.
Empty pockets, so we've been told.
Empty-handed.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a bad thing.
Yeah, because, okay, somebody had mentioned this earlier. Is there a possibility that we rejected the terms that the Chinese proposed to us?
Possibly.
Yeah, that's a possibility because it's not been explained to us.
Yeah.
We don't know what exactly happened and we're speculating.
Yeah, but irrespective of what happened, whether they got the loan or not, I think the president is being perennially embarrassed. And the people who are embarrassing him are his communication unit. You cannot have the president being mocked day in, day out.
Yeah.
Someone within the communication or strategic unit of the presidency is not doing their job.
They need to get it together.
Yeah.
But if we were to compare this cartoon with the one by Gado last week, I think Friday.
Yes.
I think that was far more effective. I think this is just a copycat version. It's just, it's a bit lazy if you compare it to what Gado did.
Yeah, absolutely. But I also want to take a shot at Kenyans. You would be very silly to laugh at your president for not coming back. I assume the president is well-intended. He has intentions. He has good intentions. If he fails, Kenya fails as well.
Yeah.
Well, that is a true statement. And then that is also a reflection of our feelings in this cartoon. I say we toss it and let's go to the star real quick.
This one I love.
Ozone.
It's ozone. A bed called SGR, right? On this bed is caricature of Raila Odinga.
Dead asleep.
Dead asleep, handshake stomach.
Oh yeah, so his belly's full. He's had so much. He's had his fill of handshake goodness.
This guy had so
He's
much
happy.
Chinese wine and sweet and sour chicken. And the lady next to him has been branded loyalists, but she's sort of pissed off. She's saying, another Canaan or Canaan, whatever they call it. You never fail to disappoint.
Yeah.
And I think the context of this is promises are going to people somewhere, but now because they've not been fulfilled, the lady is like, it's another pipe dream.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you never fail to disappoint.
But also the fact that the caricature of Raila, he's fast asleep.
He's fast asleep.
This handshake has knocked him out. He's not aware of anything.
But even when he's asleep, he's smiling.
Well, because he's happy, like we said. Look at his belly.
He's in a good spot.
Happy.
Look at his belly.
He's slept, he's eaten well before he slept.
Yeah, I think it's a...
What I thought about this cartoon when I first looked at it, it was hilarious, it was funny. It does play on our social norms and the way we depict women. And I could attack that, but I'm going to just hold my peace.
It's a Monday, yeah.
It's a Monday, and it was funny. It was humorous, it was effective.
Yeah.
I say it's a winning cartoon. What do you guys say?
I
think
would
we're
agree.
Winning.
Okay, I stopped asking whether or not you have a final thought. What is our final thought?
And now, our final thought. Today it is not a book. It is a concept by a man called Simon Sinek. And the concept is the law of diffusion of innovation, right? And then much later on we'll talk about the...
We'll attach another
concept to it.
Yes, it's called the smiling curve,
Yeah.
right? Which one of you wants to go first? Who wants to explain it?
Okay, fine then. I will pick it up from you. The law of diffusion of innovation is a bell curve on the production or the adoption of products and how they go and how much you need to get, or how many people you need to get for your product or your innovation to tip.
Yes.
And a bell curve, you know the shape, and you can see it on the screen with us.
Yeah.
And it says at the beginning, what you do need is a little sliver of people to adopt it, and then it will tip.
Yes.
So the first people who adopt any innovation are what are called innovators.
Yeah.
Now, in any type of innovation, whatever it is you're selling to the public, only 2.5% are innovators.
Yes.
They will identify the potential in it, and they will adopt it, and they will start using it.
Yeah.
The next ones are the ones who like trying something new while it is still fresh. They like experiencing new things. This is where your entrepreneur is found.
Yes.
And these are called the early adopters, and
Okay.
they're 13.5%.
Yes.
Now, if you get these two, the 2.5 innovators and the 13.5 early adopters, then whatever it is you have, whatever product you have will tip.
It'll take off.
Yeah.
It'll take off. And these are the guys that Apple went for. So if we're to pick Apple as an innovation and say who are they making the product for, they never made it for the mass market. They never made it for everybody. They made it for the innovators and the early adopters. The guys who wanted something new, something random, something definitely cutting edge, and they used it. And once they started using it and it was proved that it worked, then they got the next guys. These are called the early majority, 34%. Then once these guys come on, the rest of the masses come. And this is another 34% called the late majority. So this is like your 68% of the market. This is where everybody is.
That's like the bulk of that bell curve,
That's the bulk of the bell curve. But if you go targeting the mass market, you may never make it. Then the final people that you may never even get are the laggards. And maybe that's who the people who never get it. They're 16%, and they will never agree to your innovation or to your idea. And that's probably the thing that the president is working with. He has a vision for our country. He has a place he wants to take us. And this place requires money. This place requires a thought, and it requires finances to take us to this place. And what he's working for is this middle. He's trying to get the early majority and the late majority, the bulk of the people, to get it. And I don't think he could get those. If he just gets some innovators, some early adopters that will work night and day, heart and soul, put their money, and the rest of us will join on.
And I think those early adopters, you can also call them influencers of one kind or another, right? So I think... Oh, you have something to say?
Yeah, I'm burning to say it.
Okay, go ahead.
You know, the reason we were reading this book, my friends, is because I believe in this country we have poverty of thought. Now, if Uhuru is going to China to look for, I don't know how much, is it $2.5 billion to do Naivasha to Kisumu?
Mm.
And we're being weighed down by how many trillion?
5 point something trillion.
5.4 trillion. You know, I went back sometime to Uhuru's speech in Atlanta. He had gone to the States some time back, and he spoke about this thing called the diaspora bond, where the amount of money the diaspora remits to this country is about $2 billion every single year. That amount of money, that's a lot of money, right? And diaspora can raise that money together, and we can be able to finance. Yeah, we can be able to build SGR here.
No China necessary.
Yeah, here's the thing. I do think there are local solutions that can override all this debt that we're getting from international institutions. Matter of fact, SGR is not a Chinese project, neither is it Japanese or Iranian or Palestinian. It is a Kenyan project. We should be able to raise this money by ourselves.
Most definitely.
Right?
But what it needs is innovative thinking. We need to stop looking outside for someone else to rescue us from our problems and help us, but look inside and think innovatively.
And that's a good segue to the next concept we're going to bring in when we talk about the development or the growth of this country, where we're going and who's going to take us there. So the second concept we're going to bring in is something called the smiling curve. So this was a concept proposed in 1992 by a man named Stan Shi, who was the co-founder or the founder of Acer. You know, they make computers, chips, and all of that stuff. So just like the bell curve, now this is inverted, so it's a smiling curve. So on the y-axis, you have added value, so value going from low to high. And then on the x-axis, you have the production chain. So essentially, and we'll have it up on the screen for you so you can understand what I'm describing. You have on one end, high value at the beginning of the production chain. You have R&D and technology, the process when the production chain is starting at the beginning.
So that's research and development.
Research and development, correct. So then as you go over to the other side, another high point of the production line, which is also the end, you have the branding, the services, the marketing. But then down at the middle, you have the lowest point, which is the manufacturing. So his concept discusses that at the end of the production value chain, those two ends you have, the R&D and the branding and the servicing, they command higher financial value to the product than the manufacturing will.
Yes.
So the idea is that in the developing world, we're stuck at the bottom.
Yes.
We're focused on exporting raw products, so we're not adding any value to these items that we naturally have. So I think this concept is trying to suggest that maybe we should be focusing on
manufacturing.
And I think, yes.
No, not on manufacturing.
Okay, what do you say? 'Cause I feel it's manufacturing because you cannot have economic growth without manufacturing.
Well, okay, so use China as an example. Okay. China right now have managed to command that entire smiling line,
curve.
right?
Yeah.
So at the beginning, they were focusing on manufacturing, but now they focus very heavily on R&D, very heavily on branding and servicing, and so they've managed to capture the entire smiling curve.
Okay, well, for China, they've managed to capture the entire smiling curve, but for us as Kenya, we have to begin somewhere, and I think the path to development is right there at that point, manufacturing. Because what China did is that they began with shady knockoffs.
Yes, they did,
what
because
they did?
They had very relaxed IP laws, and that allowed manufacturing companies to test the waters and, figure out every line of the production, because they would, they take an Apple laptop, open it up and say,
and put it in.
What's
And then
this?
in the end, what they did is that they were able to acquire and accumulate technology.
Okay,
Once you accumulate
your body language,
I can
please.
start research and development. But if I have nothing to start with, 2M, I can see your face, but if I have nothing to start with, there's nothing for me to research and develop, and there's definitely nothing for me to brand.
Look, I don't disagree with you guys.
Okay.
No, that much.
Not that much.
Actually, let me say.
Then flip it.
I disagree.
Let me put it this way: manufacturing as a concept to get to where we need, fantastic. We probably need to think about value addition.
But
there is a flip to it.
As you negate everything you've just said
and
before.
I'm a believer of comparative advantage, right? We at about 60s, 70s, when the South Asian countries were growing at such a big rate, right? They did have the skills to be able to manufacture, and they have been able to advance those skills up to now. I actually do not believe that Kenya can catch up with the South Asian countries, and
that is such negative thinking.
We cannot.
They
have developed such economies of scale in production, all right, and their factors and cost of production are much better than ours.
However,
but if you look at first world countries, let's look at Australia, for example, or Dubai. Let's even take Dubai, for example. In 1993, 1994, the Emirates had only three planes. KQ had 27 planes. All right? Now, fast forward to now, the Emirates has about 200 and something planes. KQ has 39. There's somewhere where I'm going here. You see, Dubai knew they had oil, but that oil could last them only this much. And therefore they realized, for us to attract the world to Dubai, we need to make ourselves appealing and attractive. And therefore they went and they focused on the service industry. We have a low-hanging fruit in this country. We have agriculture, we have mobile money, we have banking, we have tourism.
I'm just going to cut you short there.
It's the
oh
Lord.
My goodness.
The Lord is with, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me. That missile was coming for me.
Before the missile actually arrives, I'm going to stop you there and say one last thing, because thankfully I'm the host and I get to dictate.
I don't get to have my final thought.
No, you don't.
Can I please? No.
Unfortunately, today it's over. Today it's over. I'm gonna say.
Let me make my final remark. Only because 2M loves his monologues and he likes to eat. He likes to eat into our time. We need to behave better.
I'm giving you like 2 seconds.
All right. No, I do agree with. I'm not gonna ramble. I do agree with 2M that we should prioritize services as a way to initiate structural change in this country. I do. However, I just also think that when we talk about manufacturing, we need to make some distinctions, because when we talk about industrialization, that could mean everything and anything. It could mean steel. Yes. It could mean technology. It could mean agribusiness. It could mean anything. Yeah. However, I think as a country, we have a comparative advantage in agriculture. Do you not? And I think that is what we should focus on.
Beautiful.
Agribusiness as an engine for structural transformation.
Beautiful.
So I looked at this statistic. Yes. They said Africa exports 69% of the world's raw cocoa. Yeah. But we only export 16% of ground cocoa. Ground cocoa carries 2 to 5 times more value than raw cocoa. So we have all these opportunities that we're not like tapping into. So agribusiness, for development.
I completely agree with you.
That one I agree.
And considering the reason that China, they've given us an opportunity. They have an aging population, they have a climate that is changing, and they've decided to go into those two ends of the smiling curve we spoke about.
I completely agree.
They are giving us an opportunity to pick up where they have left off.
Okay, say what you have to say.
Now,
final thought.
Today we had a winning headline from the Standard,
a
winning cartoon from the Star, and I must tell you, Kiran, you cannot trade. Global trade is based on goods, not services. You cannot export the experience of using something.
Of course you can.
So we can keep agriculture because it is still a good. Keep your services. This is Winning Headlines. See you tomorrow.